Hello, welcome back to another Lawyers React. This is going to be another, looks like roommate on roommate dispute. I think it's some sort of probably tenant subleasing or renting out a part of a space. So let's just get into it.
This is the plaintiff, Quandu Terry. He says he rented an apartment from the defendant, and the lousy landlord decided to lock him out, which is illegal. All of his stuff was in limbo, including expensive appliances which he owns.
The tricky thing about landlords locking out tenants is, one, it's virtually illegal in almost every jurisdiction. Two, you open yourself up as a landlord for liability for the stuff inside the unit that you now basically have to protect because you lock the tenant out. So it's not a good idea to lock tenants out unless you have legal authority to do so, which is typically, like in California, done through the court system, and you get a sheriff lockout, and then you can lock the tenant out then. And there's still procedures for dealing with the stuff, but caution, don't lock tenants out, because then, one, it's illegal. Two, you're now on the hook for their stuff and you have to keep it safe.
He's here suing this unscrupulous man for every penny of the $3,614.30 he's owed for his personal property and unreturned security. This is the defendant, Ahmad Davis. He says the plaintiff was using the apartment as a warehouse for some kind of illegal activity. Couches stacked on top of one another, multiple appliances, boxes, and a 6-foot elephant statue.
I like how the plaintiff showed up like he was going to court, but like not even that he was going to court, he showed up like he was going to a debate. Like that outfit looks like an outfit you're ready to debate someone in. I think that's pretty funny.
Turns out the guy got arrested and was thrown in jail. No rent was being paid, and he changed the locks. If anyone here has been wronged, it's him, and he's not paying a penny to the plaintiff. He's accused of locking out a locked-up guy. The defendants filed a countersuit for $3,400 for unpaid rent and damages.
All parties, please use your right hands.
So what I suspect happened, I don't know if someone was not in jail, but there's always this weird period, like if someone gets, let's say they're locked up or they go missing, who knows, a number of things, they're gone, and they don't pay rent, the owner can typically file for an unlawful detainer, an eviction, to get the unit back. So if you're in jail and your rent is not paid, the owner can still try to get the unit back. And then there's ways of handling the stuff that's in the unit in the event that the owner gets possession of the unit back. So we'll see how they handle that in this.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff says his landlord locked him out and has his stuff. But the defendant says the plaintiff was running some sort of illegal activity inside and he got busted. It's the case of you got busted, so you can't be trusted.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Quandu Terry, you are suing Ahmed Davis and ADS Property Management, represented here by Mr. Davis, for $3,614.30, which you say you are out as a result of an illegal lockout and his refusal to return items to you. You have a counterclaim against him for $3,400 in unpaid rent and damages. Okay. Right. There is a security deposit at play here of $1,700, right? Everybody agrees it's $1,700?
Yes.
All right, so what happened?
Basically, my father and my two friends, they went to go get my belongings from my apartment while I was incarcerated.
When were you arrested?
Okay, I turned myself in February 1st.
February 1st. You send them there when?
I sent them the second week of February, and the locks were changed.
Okay, now hold on. All right, did you have a lease on the place?
Yes, I did.
All right, and your lease was from when to when?
My lease was from September, I'll tell you right now.
To September.
September.
So you were in the midst of your lease, in the middle of it.
Yes.
All right, now was this, your rent was subsidized, right?
Yeah.
Is it Section 8?
No, it's not Section 8.
A different program?
It's a different program.
All right, were you responsible for paying any portion of it, yes or no?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so rent was paid?
Yeah, it was paid.
Rent was paid for February, and you don't dispute that rent was paid for February?
No.
Okay, so now you two gentlemen.
Okay, so he doesn't have Section 8, but he has a subsidy. So issue now is we're going to figure out what happened. So he turns himself in early February, but rent for February was already paid. So he's covered through the end of February. He turns himself in. I can't tell if the landlord at that point knows that he turned himself into the police. So paid rent, he's covered through, assuming it's not a leap year, February 28th. Then 2 weeks later, he sends his family, so they must somehow have a key to his unit, and says, hey, get my stuff out of the unit. I'm suspecting at some point he's going to tell the landlord, I'm giving up the unit, but we'll see how we get to that point.
Go there, one of you come up. Did you go to the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
At his request? And the purpose of going there was what?
Just to get the belongings and stuff.
Okay.
And
by the way, before you send him, did you communicate with your landlord and say anything about the situation?
Well, I tried to communicate with him, but he never picks up his phone. So I talked to Holly, that's his representative, and I told her that I was going to be leaving and everything.
That you were breaking the lease?
Yes,
All
basically.
right.
And I had my...
Did you explain the circumstances?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you go there, and what happens when you try to get in?
yeah, like I said, we went there, me and him and his father. We went there trying to get in, and the locks was just.
So you couldn't do
working.
anything?
Nah. So
Did
we
anybody
just
call the
left.
police?
Nah, we didn't do that.
No police.
All right. So did you change the locks? You can go ahead and.
Okay.
The locks were eventually changed after
In
they moved
February?
out. No, not in February.
When did you change the locks?
In April.
Do you have a receipt from changing the locks?
No, my witness can. This is my maintenance actually.
Come on
got
up.
here.
Are you the maintenance man?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did you change the locks on that place?
March 21st.
March 20th.
I physically went there. There was a female tenant staying there. We explained to her. She said she changed the keys. She said Kwandu had changed the locks, and she didn't have a key to it. So she said she was not locking the doors when she left. She was not doing any of that. March 22nd, I went back. The whole apartment was empty. I changed the locks.
Okay. So this is not uncommon. At some point, somehow it gets communicated, hey, landlord, I'm going to leave. Now, we're in February. He doesn't change locks till March 22nd. Trying to figure out why he changed the locks. If he turned himself in February, I'm trying to figure out, because it seems like mid-February they go together, including the tenant, to get his stuff out. So he must not have been incarcerated at that time, or maybe he was, but it seemed like he was actually there getting the stuff out. So then we change locks. Tenants changing locks happens. And a lot of it, depending on the neighborhood, like tenants might not feel safe, or landlords may not always change locks in between tenants, and the tenant will change the locks. The issue with that is just two things. One, they don't always give a key to the owner or the property management company, so it makes it very difficult for property management to go into the unit for emergencies or for routine maintenance that's approved if they don't have a key. Another issue is if you have a master key system, you the landlord have one, and the tenant changes the lock, the key is not going to match the master. And that means when you go in to try to open the unit, let's say there's a maintenance request and the tenant goes, yeah, go ahead, enter, I'm at work. You can't get in because your master doesn't work on that door because they changed the lock, and it's very unlikely that they match it to the master. So those are the two main issues why landlords don't like tenants changing locks. Typically that's addressed in the lease. And usually the lease says you can change locks, but you got to give us, management or owner, a key. Or you can have the locks changed at your expense, but done through our vendor. That way, when the lock is changed, it matches the master. So, moving on.
Except for what she had left behind, trash. There was a kitchen table. Everything else was gone. They had clearly moved out.
That's not true.
Who was a female living there?
That's my children's mother.
Okay. Now, you are suing for the return of the security deposit, but you broke the lease.
Another thing with the women being there, a lot of times with tenants that have like Section 8, the Section 8 voucher in the contract states who can stay in the unit. So let's say he was the only one on like a Section 8 contract. If another woman was living there, even if it's the mother of his kids, even if it's the kids, if they're not on his voucher, they don't get to be there because that could be grounds to evict him. Here he says he's on a subsidy, right? So the subsidy is 100% paying his rent. So it's very likely he has an agreement with the subsidy. I'm only the only one occupying the unit, and he's probably the only one on the lease. So So it doesn't matter if it's the mother of his kids or his kids there, they have to be authorized to be living there. Now the kids, there's some flexibility depending on the law, but typically you can't bar the tenant's kids from living with them if they're minors. But the mother, if she's not on the lease and she's not married to him, the landlord might have grounds to evict her or evict him for having her there. So she's not necessarily permitted to be staying there.
Yeah, I broke the lease.
All right.
Okay, that's understandable. Okay,
right.
that I broke the lease, but my belongings,
All
I
right,
didn't
so
get
let's talk
none
about your
of my
belongings.
appliances.
Fridge with a TV in the door.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, I try to be fancy and classy, you know.
Yeah, me too. But before I pay for something so fancy and classy, I let other people not pay my rent. That's just me. All right, and stove, stainless steel GE electric, a Samsung dryer, and a Samsung washer.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have proof of purchase of these items?
Yes, I do.
May I see them? All right.
Sure.
So what? When you go in there, where are those items?
The only thing in that apartment was a doorless fridge and a pile of
A doorless.
a doorless fridge. The doors were not even in the apartment.
That's because they had a TV in them.
Yeah, he's telling a doorless lie because I had all my items there.
How do you
okay?
know? How do
I
you know the mother of your children didn't
I
steal
know
your
she
stuff?
didn't, but
Okay. Then the judge brings up, how do the mother of the children sin? Here's the issue when you, the individual, in this case the tenant, when your life is a little in disarray, he sends his family to go get his stuff in February. Fast forward to March, and the mother of his children, she's now there. And she's saying, no, I'm here, and I don't even have keys, so I've just been leaving the place unlocked. So there's a few issues. Could have been the family took his stuff. Don't know why they would lie about it, but maybe. Maybe they hawked it. Could be that at some point between when he left the unit in February and March, when property management finds the woman there, she said, yeah, I've been leaving the door unlocked. Someone could have come in during the day and taken the stuff. I don't know if there's cameras in this building. I don't know if there's security. I don't even know where the property's at. But it's not unheard of that someone would come in and steal stuff. And it might have been that they took it before she was even there. If someone, maybe there's another person in the building that goes, hey, this guy's gone. And they call up a friend. The friend comes, breaks in the unit, and steals the stuff because he does have nice stuff in there. He has a new laundry set, a new stove, and a new fridge that he may have paid for, or sometimes nonprofits will pay for all of that. If it's on the tenant to supply those things, sometimes the nonprofit, as part of their subsidy, will pay for new furnishing and new appliances. So could be that stuff was taken before she even got there, and was taken after the brothers, the family went and got some of the stuff. I don't know to the extent what stuff they got from the unit, because I thought that they were sent to go get stuff from the unit. So let's see how this gets explained.
I know she didn't because she doesn't steal. And first of all, she has her own apartment, and her house is full of nice stuff. Him, on the other hand, he said several times, you got a lot of nice stuff in your house. You should sell it to me. And I have the receipt.
What were the charges
What charges?
against you?
Breach of peace. I got into a real bad fight.
How long did you end up serving?
Well, I did about 8 months.
In your answer to the complaint, you say that the plaintiff was using the place like a warehouse. The apartment was filled with, but not limited to, toys in bags and boxes, couches that were stacked on top of each other, multiple appliances, even a 6-foot elephant statue. Even my basement, that was not his area to utilize, had a lot of stuff. How do you know that?
I have pictures of it.
Can I see the pictures?
Sure.
That way.
There's a washer dryer.
Right.
They're in shrink wrap. I mean, did you have like a fencing enterprise here? What was going on here?
Well, no.
There's a lot of stuff in
I
shrink
just-
wrap in here. What were you doing?
Yeah, I just moved out of a big house, so I had to put a lot of stuff in storage because it didn't fit in that apartment, and that was a 2-bedroom.
Your Honor, there are multiple refrigerators, multiple washer and dryers, and it wasn't being used as a place for a family to live as it was intended.
What were the charges?
Breach of peace.
Did you have anything having to do with stolen property or no?
No. Yeah, right.
No, I'm asking. I mean, you got to admit this looks a little suspicious, right?
Yeah, no, I get
I mean,
money.
you know I'm smart, right?
I work.
You know I was a prosecutor. I know.
Yeah.
I work too, but there's not a bunch of appliances and shrink wrap in my living room instead
Yeah.
of a living room.
Yeah,
There's a living room in my living room.
The guy, the tenant,
I also find it odd if the mother of his kids has her own apartment. I don't get why she was staying in his apartment. Like, I don't know why she was coming and going and out of the apartment. What would you have if you have your own place? Why would you be in there?
the tenant has like multiple refrigerators, different.
Inside the refrigerators. And then they shrink wrapped them inside the refrigerator.
No, the whole thing is shrink wrapped. The question, does it sound shady for a tenant to do that, to have that?
Yes, it sounds shady.
I mean, is there any logical explanation on why you would have multiple appliances and shrink wrap in your living room?
He could just be holding them for a mate. Who's a mate's bought them, just holding them for him until he sells them on.
Multiple refrigerators for a mate.
Yeah, you can't explain that.
No. Going inside the courtroom.
I don't really care. If you're paying rent and you have multiple fridges and the utilities are in your name and you're running them on your utilities, I don't think it matters. Why it matters now is you're trying to circumstantially figure out what exactly happened in this unit and where his stuff went. So again, and it doesn't look like the way that the unit is photographed there, which I want to know when these photos were taken, because that would kind of help piece together this timeline. But the fact that it doesn't really, like, he moved in September and he got incarcerated in February. So I don't know, at some point, it doesn't even look like he was really like living in it. The whole place is disheveled. So yeah, I can see the argument like he was using it as a warehouse, which it doesn't really matter if it's being used as a warehouse and he's gone if the rent is being paid. But he's being incarcerated, so the rent's not being paid, and you have all the stuff in this unit that you as a landlord don't want to be responsible for. So let's see if we can figure out where the stuff went.
Your Honor, the letters that he sent mentioned that he got all of his belongings, that he
Can I
moved
see
them
that?
out. Yes. Just the first paragraphs that are there.
Yeah, I mentioned that I got my belongings because I was under the impression that my dad got everything, but he said he didn't get everything out of there.
He says everything was out of there. This says, you say in a letter, I've gotten all of my belongings taken out of the place already. How am I going to pin your missing stuff on them, on him?
Yeah.
That's going to be, let me just see your counterclaim. Let me look at your counterclaim. You're suing for May through August. Did you re-rent the place?
Yes,
When?
in June.
So why would you get double rent?
Well, what I'm suing for was that he broke his lease.
Yeah, I know.
and it
That
goes
doesn't
to
mean you
them,
get a change.
So I don't know where the jurisdiction for this particular case is, but in California, if you break a lease, you as a landlord have the obligation to try to re-rent this, unit. This pertains to residential. So if he stops paying rent, like February is the last month he paid, and so March through September is the remainder of the lease, or basically August. Then you as a landlord have to work towards leasing it. So if, let's say, March, he has to clean up the unit, can't lease it. Let's say he leases it. Here he says in June. So there could be technicalities. I don't know if there's a legal issue as to why he couldn't regain possession, but it looks like he was able to get possession back at the end of March. But for argument's sake, March through June, he would try to collect that rent money. He would credit the security deposit towards that, but also if there's any damages to the unit, he would, be able to collect that out of the security deposit. So the rent arguably from March through when he leased it in June would be due, and plus the damages, and then you credit the security deposit because the landlord has an obligation to make efforts to lease it. And that's going to get addressed right now.
But ching, let the cash register ring. Like, woo, it's great. Everybody should break their lease because I get paid rent twice. That's not how it works. All right, so it's May that you're out, and that's what you're keeping the security deposit for.
That's what, yeah.
Okay, and then now let's talk about damages. Do you have pictures of the damages you want me to look at?
Yes,
Let me see them.
that's on that phone.
Oh, sorry.
So what we do whenever someone vacates the property and sends us a letter that they're out. The rest of it, we have to empty it and prepare it for the next tenant moving in. And there was nothing in that apartment of any value. And we
Do you have any pictures that would justify having to have the carpets cleaned for $125?
I actually, you know,
Yes or no?
no.
Okay. Do you have any pictures that would show why the toilet and floor needed replacing for $525?
The picture in there of the bathroom shows the sink clogged. It shows the toilet
Right, but
is
that can be
broken.
cleaned. And
The toilet, you can see that it's removed to the side, and as it was being flushed, it was going onto the floor, and it damaged the wood underneath, and we had to replace the floor.
do you have evidence of the repair of the floor? Who repaired the floor?
It was, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
How many hours did this take?
I'd say 4, 5, 6 hours.
What do you get paid by the hour?
14.
Okay. What about painting and patching repairs of $650? How do you get that figure? Because you're paying them by the hour, so how is it you're
Yes.
coming up with these figures?
Well, you know, when you repaint, you can't just paint a
You should've
spot.
just
You know, when
said it
he's
towards the
moving
left.
stuff out, they put holes in the walls
Can
and
I
things.
see pictures of holes on the wall?
I didn't take
I know,
pictures.
but then
I
but you
wasn't-
do, okay, but you understand the pickle we're in.
I'm going to speed this up a little bit. If you're going to be claiming damages, you have to itemize it. So, for instance, if you have maintenance, which he has here, if you have some sort of invoice, if he gets billed out, let's say $25 an hour, $25 an hour times the number of hours, you want him to keep track of how much it's costing and what he's doing for each thing that he's repaired in the unit. Therefore, when you go to the judge, you go, hey, here's how much it takes. Here's what maintenance costs an hour. Here was the cost of the toilet, the materials, all this stuff, and you itemize that. You have to come to court with this. If you come to court and go, the judge is going to impute whatever she figures makes sense. So if you want to get your money out of it, you've got to justify the charges. Here in California, there's a $125 cleaning fee that you can deduct off the top without having to justify. You don't have to prove any paperwork. Anything outside the $125, you then have to justify with paperwork when you itemize the security deposit. So maybe that's why it's $125 for cleaning the carpet. Maybe he just meant a cleaning fee. Again, I don't know what jurisdiction he's in. But if you're going to be charging all that stuff, you have to itemize it. Otherwise, you're going to piss off the judge, and the judge is just going to be guessing and is going to chop your money because it's not going to be reasonable because there's nothing to show any of that.
I actually have another letter from him that states that from moving, he put holes and things in the walls.
Are you kidding me? Would you stop confessing? Give me the letter. Oh, for the love of all that's holy. What is this? A picture of. What is that?
This is damage anything to place.
Oh, that's a dead
from
rat.
here down.
And
Yeah, but a dead rat that someone took a baseball bat to? Because I don't recognize it as a rat.
yeah, it's a rat. It was a tail.
Was it
and
somebody
yeah.
pummel it? Is that why you took a picture? Because somebody pummeled it?
Yeah, it was
Did you
in my
pummel
basement.
It? Are you the one who pummeled it?
I did.
And then you posted the picture of the
Yeah.
mighty you against the rat?
I sure did. There shouldn't be no rats up in that apartment. Who wants to sleep with rats? I got kids.
Nobody, but you never complained about it until he kept your money, your security deposit. All right, just a second. Let me read this. Okay, and here you say, if I damage anything, it was the sink only. What were you referring to?
The sink, basically, I would say it got stuffed up maybe because my son put I think he put pennies in it or something, I believe. But that's about it.
All right, so there's $1,700 on that side. You got paid for every month's rent except for May, correct?
Yes.
Rent is $850 a month, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to allow $850 for the month of May. I'm going to allow $150 for the lock change. I'm going to allow $400 for any other damages that you're talking about in the wall and the toilet, the floor, and all that. That's a total of $1,400. I'm ordering the defendant to return to the plaintiff the amount of $300. That is the net judgment in this case and resolves both cases. As to your claim against him, there is zero evidence that this stuff was there when other parties that you had living there left. Why anybody would leave a shrink wrap dryer and a shrink wrap washer and, to me, the most damning evidence is taking the door and leaving the refrigerator there. If they were going to do it, they'd just take the whole thing and say, I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, leaving the refrigerator there and taking the door was just nasty, just nasty. So the net judgment is in favor of the plaintiff, but in the amount of $300. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're going to go to court, you have to have documentation. And what's really important to a judge is that the timeline makes sense. So for the plaintiff, he should have gone in, gave up the unit this day, sent my dad. The dad should have taken photos and go, hey, here's all the stuff in your unit. Here's the unit now that we're leaving it and we've taken all your stuff out. Because he says, hey, everything's gone. And then he blamed it on his dad. And now it's like on the dad, like, well, why did you not take all of the stuff out? And so if the dad had photos, hey, I came here, this is all your stuff, took photos of it, left it, here's all that's left. Seems like the dad didn't take everything and he left some stuff there. And that's what had been there through basically March when they find the mother of his children there. She leaves because they changed the locks. And then the subsidy program probably paid rent. And then eventually at some point it was agreed upon that the unit would be, he was giving up possession. And then the landlord was able, he being the tenant gave up possession, the landlord was able to get the unit back and rent it. So he didn't get paid for the month of May. But if you're going to go to court, you have to have your timelines together and you have to have paperwork, photos, receipts. Very important in small claims. All right. That is all I have for this one. If you like this one, you could check out my other lawyer reacts. You can also check out the other videos on my channel, predominantly pertaining to real estate. I will see you in the next one. Thanks.